going to be much more nervous, and we did a bit of recording beforehand as well, early this year.
Christine McVie was born Christine Ann Perfect on July 12, 1943, in the small village of Bowth, England. From the very start, music surrounded her life. Her father, Cyril Perfect, was a well-known music teacher and violinist, while her mother, Beatrice, was a psychic and faith healer. These two influences, music and mystery, shaped Christine's view of the world. As a little girl, she spent hours sitting at the family piano, learning melodies by ear. But she never dreamed that one day her music would touch millions of hearts across the world. In her teenage years, Christine studied classical music, but her interests began to change when she discovered rock and roll. Artists like Fats Domino and the Everly Brothers opened her eyes to a whole new world of rhythm and feeling. Her father encouraged her talent, but he worried about her entering the unpredictable music world. Still, Christine's quiet determination led her to art school in Birmingham, where she joined a band with her friends just for fun. That fun turned into something much bigger. She joined the blues band Chicken Shack in the 1960s, where her deep, soulful voice and smooth piano skills stood out. When she sang "I'd Rather Go Blind," her voice was so full of emotion that listeners couldn't look away. The song became a minor hit and revealed her natural ability to mix sadness and beauty into something unforgettable. At this point, she was already known in music circles, but she had no idea that her life was about to change forever. Through love, fame, and heartbreak that would push her to her limits. While performing with Chicken Shack, Christine met a tall, quiet man named John McVie. He was the bassist for a band called Fleetwood Mac. John was shy, serious, and deeply devoted to his music. Christine, on the other hand, was warm and charming. They quickly fell in love and got married in 1968. For a while, it seemed like the perfect love story, two musicians sharing the same dream. Soon after, Christine left Chicken Shack to join Fleetwood Mac, the band her husband played in. At first, she was just helping out, but it didn't take long for everyone to realize she was something special. Her voice added warmth, her piano added depth, and her songwriting brought emotion and meaning to the band's music. The McVies became the emotional core of Fleetwood Mac, but success brought problems. Constant touring, long nights in studios, and pressure from fame began to take a toll on their marriage. John started drinking heavily, and their relationship slowly fell apart. Christine later admitted that the music kept them together even when their love was fading. During one concert, she signed divorce papers during intermission, and then went right back on stage to sing "Go Your Own Way." It was a heartbreaking symbol of how the band's music often mirrored their personal pain. By the mid-1970s, Fleetwood Mac's lineup had changed again and again, but Christine remained steady. Her kindness and calm personality held the group together while chaos swirled around them. Yet, even as she smiled on stage, her heart was breaking. She poured all her sadness and longing into her songs, turning pain into poetry. This emotional honesty made her one of the band's strongest creative forces and one of the most beloved members of Fleetwood Mac. The late 1970s became both the brightest and darkest period of Christine McVie's life. In 1977, Fleetwood Mac released Rumors, one of the best-selling albums in history. Almost every song on that album came from real heartbreak. The band members were all dealing with personal chaos. Christine and John McVie had divorced. Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks had broken up, and Mick Fleetwood's marriage was collapsing. Instead of falling apart, they turned their pain into art. Christine wrote some of the album's most famous songs. "You Make Loving Fun" was her attempt to find happiness again after her divorce. The song was actually about her new boyfriend, the band's lighting director. She also wrote "Don't Stop," a song about looking forward instead of backward, a message of hope during a time of heartbreak. Ironically, the song that inspired millions to think about tomorrow came from a woman who was struggling to survive her own today. Behind the scenes, the band was drowning in drama, drugs, and exhaustion. Cocaine and alcohol flowed freely, and every studio session turned into an emotional battlefield. Christine, who had once been the band's emotional anchor, began to lose herself too. She started using cocaine and drinking heavily, trying to numb the pain of loneliness. Yet somehow, when she sat at her piano, everything made sense again. Her music was the only thing keeping her from breaking apart completely. Rumors became a global phenomenon, selling millions of copies and earning Grammy Awards. But for Christine, success came with emptiness. She later said that the applause felt hollow when she went back to her hotel room alone. Still, she smiled for the cameras, sang with passion, and continued to write songs that defined a generation. The contrast between her public joy and private pain was heartbreaking, and it would only grow worse in the years to come. After the massive success of Rumors, Christine and the band tried to continue their momentum, but the weight of fame and personal struggles was too heavy. Christine began a relationship with Dennis Wilson, the troubled drummer of the Beach Boys. Dennis was charming and creative, but also deeply self-destructive. He battled alcohol and drug addiction, and Christine tried to help him, even when it meant risking her own peace of mind. Their love was intense but chaotic. He was beautiful and frightening at the same time, she once said. Their relationship ended tragically when Dennis drowned in 1983. Christine was devastated. She withdrew from public life and poured her grief into music once again. Around the same time, Fleetwood Mac's internal tensions continued. The band members were like family, a family constantly fighting, breaking, and reuniting. Christine's songs during this period reflected her inner exhaustion. Tracks like Hold Me and Little Lies showed a woman trying to hold on to hope, even when everything around her was falling apart. Her private life became quieter, but her emotional battles did not. Christine began to struggle with severe anxiety and depression. Fame had taken away her privacy, her relationships, and her sense of self. She often said that she felt like a prisoner of her own success. She started spending more time alone, away from the spotlight, trying to find peace in isolation. By the late 1980s, Christine had become reclusive. She left California and returned to England, buying a country home where she could live a simple, quiet life. She spent her days gardening, painting, and occasionally writing music. But the silence was heavy. Fans wondered why she disappeared, not realizing that the woman who once sang about "Don't Stop" had stopped. Not because she wanted to, but because her heart was tired. In the 1990s, Fleetwood Mac went through several changes, but Christine stayed away. She said that touring no longer made her happy. The joy of performing had been replaced by fear and sadness. She had developed stage fright and anxiety that made it hard to perform in front of large audiences. For a long time, she refused all invitations to rejoin the band, saying she was content living a quiet country life with her dogs and garden. However, time has a way of healing certain wounds. In the early 2000s, Christine slowly began to reconnect with her bandmates. She recorded a solo album and even joined Fleetwood Mac again for a few shows. Fans were thrilled to see her back, but she was still fragile, physically and emotionally. Despite this, her voice remained just as smooth and comforting as ever. Her performances were emotional, not just for the audience, but for Christine herself. It was like revisiting ghosts from her past. When she finally returned full-time to Fleetwood Mac in 2014, it was a joyful reunion. The audience cheered, her bandmates cried, and Christine smiled genuinely for the first time in years. Yet behind that smile, she was still haunted by old memories. The lost love, the years of pain, and the loneliness that had followed her everywhere. Even in her 70s, Christine continued to create music. She collaborated with Lindsey Buckingham on a 2017 album, proving that her creative spark had never died. The warmth in her voice, the wisdom in her lyrics, and the honesty in her storytelling made her one of the most respected women in rock history. Still, she preferred peace over fame. She often said, "I'm just a very simple woman who loves music." Christine McVie's final years were peaceful but marked by health struggles. She rarely gave interviews, choosing instead to live quietly away from Hollywood and the chaos of fame. In one of her last interviews, she reflected on her life, saying she had no regrets, only gratitude for the music and the people who had loved her along the way. She spoke fondly of her bandmates and said that even though they had fought, they were her musical family forever. Her sudden death on November 30th, 2022, shocked the world. The news spread quickly, and millions of fans expressed their grief online. Her bandmates were heartbroken. Stevie Nicks posted an emotional letter, calling Christine her best friend in the whole world. Mick Fleetwood said that part of the band's heart was gone forever. Even people who had never met her felt the loss deeply because her songs had been part of their lives for decades. Christine McVie was born Christine Ann Perfect on July 12, 1943, in the small English village of Booth. Her family was modest, but her father, Cyril Perfect, was a well-respected violin teacher, and her mother, Beatrice, was a psychic and faith healer. Christine's childhood was filled with both music and mystery. The sounds of classical piano and violin mixed with her mother's spiritual stories to create an unusual home life. Part science, part spirit. From an early age, Christine seemed drawn to both worlds, the beauty of music and the unseen emotions behind it. She began playing piano at age 4 and quickly showed great talent. As she grew older, she studied classical music seriously, but deep inside, she longed for something freer, something less formal and more emotional. That something arrived when she discovered American blues and rock and roll. Songs by Fats Domino and Etta James changed her forever. She realized music didn't have to be perfect. It had to be real. After finishing school, she attended an art college in Birmingham, planning to become an art teacher. But life had other plans. There, she met musicians who loved the blues, and soon she joined a local band. What started as weekend fun slowly became her life's calling. Her smoky voice, warm personality, and deep understanding of melody made her stand out. She began performing under her real name, Christine Perfect, never realizing that the name would one day become legendary in rock history. In the mid-1960s, Christine joined the band Chicken Shack, a blues group known for soulful, emotional performances. Her voice and piano playing fit perfectly with their sound. The group gained attention with a cover of Etta James's "I'd Rather Go Blind," sung by Christine with haunting emotion. Her ability to express sadness and love so naturally made the song unforgettable. It was around this time that she met a quiet, talented bass player named John McVie. John was already part of a band called Fleetwood Mac. He was serious, reserved, and deeply focused on music. Christine was warm, talkative, and nurturing, the perfect balance to John's calm personality. The two fell in love quickly and married in 1968. Their love story was simple at first, built on shared dreams and long nights in smoky clubs. But soon it became much more complicated. Christine left Chicken Shack to join Fleetwood Mac, the band her husband played in. At first, she was hesitant. She didn't want to cause tension. But once she joined, her magic transformed the group. Her voice added warmth and emotion, and her songwriting gave the band a new direction. Songs like "Over My Head" and "Say You Love Me" became early hits and showcased her gift for writing love songs that felt honest and human. However, as Fleetwood Mac grew famous, Christine and John's relationship began to fall apart. Constant touring and recording kept them apart emotionally. John began drinking heavily, and Christine felt increasingly alone. Their marriage ended in divorce in 1976, but both continued to perform together in the band. The tension between them became one of the emotional engines behind Fleetwood Mac's greatest work. Fleetwood Mac's 1977 album, Rumors, is one of the most iconic albums in music history, and also one of the most painful. Every member of the band was going through personal chaos. Christine and John had just divorced. Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks were breaking up, and Mick Fleetwood was going through a divorce too. Yet somehow, they channeled all that heartbreak into art. Christine poured her emotions into songs like "You Make Loving Fun," which celebrated her new relationship with the band's lighting director. "Don't Stop," another of her songs, became a global anthem for hope, though it came from her own struggle to move forward after heartbreak. Ironically, the band members often had to sing each other's breakup songs, right there on stage. Behind the scenes, things were wild. The band was surrounded by fame, money, and drugs. Cocaine became a daily habit for many of them. Christine herself later admitted she wasn't immune to the temptations of fame. "I thought keeping cocaine in a silver box made it classy," she said half-jokingly in an interview years later. But the reality wasn't glamorous. It was destructive. Still, when the band came together in the studio, something magical happened. The music connected them in ways words couldn't. Rumors sold more than 40 million copies and won a Grammy for Album of the Year. But Christine later said that while fans were celebrating, she was struggling to stay emotionally stable. Fame had taken a heavy toll on her, and the applause didn't fill the loneliness she felt when the lights went out. After Rumors, Fleetwood Mac was one of the biggest bands in the world, but the success came at a cost. Christine entered a relationship with Dennis Wilson, the drummer of the Beach Boys. Dennis was brilliant but deeply troubled, battling addiction and emotional instability. Christine loved him deeply and tried to save him, but their relationship was full of chaos. Dennis would disappear for days, drinking and using drugs, and Christine often worried he wouldn't come back. Yet she couldn't walk away. She believed she could help him heal. Sadly, in 1983, Dennis drowned while swimming under the influence. Christine was devastated. The loss broke something inside her. She turned to her piano again, using music as a way to cope. During this time, Fleetwood Mac continued to tour and record, but Christine's energy was fading. She wrote songs like "Hold Me" and "Little Lies" filled with bittersweet emotion. They were hits. But behind the success was a woman who felt increasingly disconnected from the world. Fame had brought her wealth and recognition, but had also taken her peace. She longed for a normal life, something simple and quiet. By the late 1980s, Christine had had enough. She moved back to England, away from Hollywood and the pressures of fame. She bought a countryside home, where she lived quietly with her dogs and spent her days gardening and writing music. She avoided interviews and public appearances, disappearing